Heavy attacks on Friedrich Merz, and time is running out mercilessly. Only 24 hours left until we reach the Merz Waterloo or the destruction of the CDU. That's now also being reported by Welt, and we'll take a look at that in a moment. And I can already tell you in advance what happened over the weekend in Berlin's political scene now surpasses everything, even what we've ever seen with the traffic light coalition. That's what this video is about today, and if you want to support this channel, feel free to leave a like and subscribe, and I'd say roll the clip.
And for the Black Forest Coalition, it's also a week of decisions.
A rather rare sight. At a discussion event in the Sauerland, Friedrich Merz receives a friendly welcome from students.
In front of a white private house with maybe 10 or 12 people there. I would just say that they were specifically brought there so that you definitely wouldn't see the images you're about to see, which are now making the rounds all over the internet. And yes, they were from the weekend, and I'm not talking about that business event, which we'll briefly touch on again in a moment.
We are eggs! We are eggs!
However, those are the protest images from the weekend, which say much more than just these few students. Why did I say right at the beginning that we have a serious attack on Friedrich Merz? Because that's coming now from Bielefeld, which we'll take a look at first. And then I'll show you what this week is actually about. By the way, last time they used special borrowing to finance a budget. That works. That's not possible this time.
About the healthcare reform, which is supposed to be discussed in the cabinet tomorrow, they have taken a very clear position again and made it clear that they will not accept it. For example, as originally planned, dependent coverage will be eliminated. The mood here is quote-unquote spoiling for a fight.
The SPD is currently threatening to revolt against Friedrich Merz. They have taken a very clear position in Bielefeld. We don't know if they're lying now. That's something we usually only see from our chancellor. But they made it very clear here. They will not vote for this insurance policy assault on society, period. That's final, and they won't cross that line. They're meeting again today in Bielefeld. I'll also give you the information from Berlin in just a moment. Only if tomorrow it's about setting up a budget and, yes, cutting back on the citizens, then they simply won't go along with those cuts anymore. There's way too much fear that they'll fall below the 5% threshold in even more states and commit absolute political suicide as a result. Like, for example, the FDP, because they entered into the traffic light coalition.
We've achieved a lot this year, but I also have to say, yes, we're not yet where we want to be.
Of the coalition agreement, only one thing was really fulfilled, and that is keeping the pension level at 48%. Everything else was either not fulfilled at all, only partially fulfilled, or not implemented at all because the situation no longer allows it. That means on all other points in the coalition agreement, they lied from start to finish or just pushed some things to the forefront. Nothing. First of all, the issue with migration worked out in some way because statistically fewer people simply arrived. That was basically all, and now he sits there and says again, yes, we've accomplished a lot. They haven't accomplished anything and have ended up in the biggest argument this republic has ever seen, even more than the traffic light coalition. Now we've just seen the attack from the SPD on the CDU. Now let's take another look at what the citizens have to say about Friedrich Merz. And then we'll get to what exactly the CDU is actually planning and how out of touch with reality they are in trying to govern this country.
Meanwhile, according to the latest INSA popularity rankings, Friedrich Merz's reputation in the country is at its lowest point. Led by Defense Minister Pistorius.
But tomorrow, everything is at stake. Tomorrow is about the survival of this coalition, as, for example, the Frankfurter Allgemeine Zeitung writes, as well as Die Welt, ARD, and ZDF. Tomorrow is about the political survival of the CDU. If the health insurance reform fails at the same time as the budget tomorrow, then we have a problem. Because then this country is basically set up to draw up an emergency budget plan once again. And actually, this chancellor could go ahead and declare a state of emergency in the Bundestag tomorrow. However, he would then have to forgo his pay raise, which of course he doesn't want to do.
Tomorrow, the parliamentary groups in the cabinet could achieve a breakthrough. The Chancellor is convinced that the way is now almost clear for the healthcare reform and the draft framework of next year's budget.
We have already discussed the heavy attack on Friedrich Merz. No, the SPD will not go along with that tomorrow. The SPD has completely different plans for this country, and the SPD is afraid that it will simply disappear into oblivion. And according to the latest polls, we have to say clearly, even the left is overtaking the SPD. And the last power base in Bremen, in Lower Saxony, and partly still in North Rhine-Westphalia is simply crumbling. Yes, like a house that's about to collapse, and if they vote for it tomorrow, that's just, well, yeah, für. Mothers no longer have any family insurance, which personally really upset me a lot. Then tomorrow, yes, it'll be Waterloo. Especially for Friedrich Merz, who will then somehow have to explain to us that he doesn't have this coalition under control. While the CDU is still living in its absolute fantasy world and wants to sell us the idea that poll numbers don't really say that much anyway.
And the broken promises are weighing on him. Can you understand that?
The expectations were huge. We went into the last federal election campaign from the opposition and represented a clear CDU program. We're already getting feedback that more was expected, that more CDU or even CSU positions would be implemented. But popularity ratings are not the decisive factor. What matters is that we make good policy.
Definition of good policy. People are preparing for a war, for a military deployment, and at the same time for an evil enemy. This economy keeps going further downhill. If we were to take out the arms industry, we would have completely different numbers. Just a small example. Rheinmetall has now received 350,000 applications from people who previously worked in the free market economy who were quickly absorbed. This country doesn't produce anything anymore. This country is only going down one path now to make itself ready for war. That's good politics, not in my view. In my view, it means the middle class is being strengthened, we have goods we produce and, as a leading exporter, sell abroad. All of that has now collapsed. And when you followed both companies on Instagram, you noticed that the Chancellor was there to give a speech. And I can break that down really quickly. What's your problem? Context, Friedrich Merz. The entrepreneurs, oh, we have complex problems. Yes, of course we understand that. Then we'll just go bankrupt voluntarily. Sorry that we had them sitting here, of course. Yes, we'd love to kick them really hard from behind. Yeah, but it's not as bad as it is here. We'll just lay off even more people. That pretty much reflects the current climate of our country, and I just wonder how long this can go on.
And then, at the next federal election, the citizens can pass their judgment on the work of this federal government, and our goal is to move Germany forward to get the economy going again.
They can say that next year, because next year there are 4 lost public holidays, but I have calculated it exactly for you, just for context. 1. May 1st next year is a Saturday, German Unity Day is a Sunday, and Christmas Day and the day after Christmas are on Saturday and Sunday. So I went ahead and did this all by myself yesterday, by the way, and made my own projection. There are productive days, there are effective, efficient days, and there are inefficient days that we have in this economy. Inefficient days are, for example, Saturdays and especially Mondays. People don't really like to work on Mondays. Then there are the efficient days. For example, that's Friday, or actually only Friday. Many people only work until noon on this day. But statistically, you get more done on a Friday than on a Monday. And then there are the days from Tuesday to Thursday, and those are simply the most lucrative of all. If, for example, a holiday falls on a Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, then things shift a little bit. I don't really want to bother you with that, and it's also highly speculative and controversial. There are only leading opinion research companies that have published this. So, And if you look at these productive days like that, then we're talking about up to 0.2% of the gross domestic product for each additional working day. If we were to subtract that now and schedule the holidays like next year, like last year, then this year we would have an economic growth of minus 0.7%. And we're continuing further into deindustrialization. And once again, everyone else is to blame. Next year, however, a lot of holidays will be gone, which then puts even more pressure on morale, which will make things even worse for the CDU's poll numbers when they stand up and say, yes, but this year we finally managed to achieve economic growth. Yes, on the backs of working people.
If you take a look at the fact that a lot of AfD voters immer noch angeben, Protestwähler zu sein, this has also fueled the AfD's rise.
Because it's important for the future of our country, and he will also run a very clear campaign against the AfD, which simply doesn't have answers when it comes to ensuring a good future for our country.
Just throwing it out there, if you don't have that, why are you copying the AfD's motions? If you have no idea about governing, if you have no idea how to make this country better, then why? You copy, well, almost every motion. Maybe you skip every third, fourth, fifth, or sixth one to, for example, relieve the people here. Why? Maybe someone could explain that to me. So either you have no idea, which would mean everything you create must be bad, or you can see that you actually do know a bit and have some very good ideas. But then you shouldn't just copy and paste the motions word for word. That's exactly what's happening in the Bundestag right now.
Economy, that's not enough. What we presented here a year ago at the EUREF campus as a coalition agreement isn't enough. More needs to happen in this coalition. That's exactly what our members of parliament expect from us. And that's why it's even more important that we make this year the year of reforms. That, especially when it comes to strengthening our economy, we make even better decisions than what we had already agreed upon in the coalition agreement.
What was written in the coalition agreement that has been kept? Mother's pension phase 3, yes, that will come at some point as long as the Commission doesn't decide otherwise. Securing the pension level at 48%, yes, now there are commissions that are stretching the whole thing out. However, it has been kept until today. We just have to say it like that. The active rente measure was partially implemented. The abolition of Bürgergeld was partially implemented. Lowering energy costs for companies was partially kept. A minimum wage of around 15 euros wasn't achieved, even though I don't agree with much of it, but it was in the coalition agreement. The early start pension due to begin on January 1st has not yet been fully implemented. Transport and faster infrastructure expansion have only been partially implemented with debt, not with the budget. Reducing bureaucracy has been a complete failure. Limiting migration at the borders, partially up to Commission level, complete failure. And this list is so long, I could write a 15-minute essay about it, because I look at this coalition agreement every week. You haven't accomplished anything you said you would, but of course it's easier to just not care about what you said back then. I'm trying to set new goals for myself now. We all know this on January 1st when we always decide, yes, I'll quit smoking, I'll stop drinking, I'll exercise more. The 3rd of January, first a cigarette and then sit in the garden.
That's a big challenge we're facing right now. We have record debt, we have record tax revenues. Now it's about saving. So the 2027 budget, which is supposed to be passed with the key points in the cabinet tomorrow, saving has to be the main focus there.
Yes, but by now we're almost at the bottom in Europe when it comes to economic growth. Below us are only Liechtenstein with minus 0.4% and the Isle of Man with 4.17%. They're below us. Even Italy has overtaken us because we only have economic growth of 0.5%, but Italy has 0.52%. That means they're growing faster, and at the top, of course, is Monaco. We don't need to compare ourselves to them. It's clear that they have 5% economic growth. Malta, Albania, Poland, Macedonia, Lithuania, Serbia, Montenegro, Bulgaria, and Ireland. Yes, these countries are all in a solid position. No one can tell me that what's happening here right now is because of global disputes or global disasters. It's actually due to mismanagement. Yeah, and these haven't been challenges for a long time now. What they have are serious problems. While their salaries keep increasing, the citizens are being asked to pay more and more. And when they say we need to save money, they mean you out there should tighten your belt, but definitely not, for example, at the Ministry of Space. Because we have to get to the moon again at some point, and we absolutely want to host the Olympics as well. And this and that, as long as the German citizen pays. In the end, it's supposed to be the right thing for the country and the world.
Euphoria with peace, those who presented themselves as the antithesis to Merkel, who went through the election campaign. These young campaigners, calling themselves the March Revolution, won the election. After a coalition agreement, they had to make some painful concessions, and many promises were later broken. Parliament members were repeatedly told this must happen now to enable cooperation with the SPD.
Well, and tomorrow they'll just be standing there. Either they'll vote along again, but one thing we know from the past as well, the SPD definitely isn't as easy to blackmail as the CDU members. They're a bit more dependent on their car keys, while the SPD is fighting for its political survival. So I think tomorrow is going to be extremely exciting, including what will still happen today in political Berlin or even in Bielefeld. There might be a third video today, maybe even a fourth one, we'll have to see, but maybe this will be the only video for now. It depends a bit on how much drama, stress and conflict comes up in the news today.